All right. We
Cheers.
should be live.
Howdy, guys.
Yo.
What up, what up?
Welcome back, everyone. Good to see you, fellas.
You two, man?
Yes.
It almost feels like it's been a while, but has it?
It was a week. I think it's just a week ago.
Yeah.
Widget.
It
We're
was
just
a
getting
weird
back into
one.
the swing of it. So
Yeah. It's a weird one because we kind of left last week with some unfinished business. So it's almost like we've been stewing on this idea.
We've had like a mid-season break.
Yeah,
We left it on a
exactly.
cliffhanger.
Like,
yeah.
we
Is
went
Jon
on
Snow
so
going to
long.
make it?
We went on
we
so
teed
long.
up
that
some
we couldn't-
actual subjects, and then we just got so caught up with the whole catch-ups that we just didn't get round to them. So
Yeah.
this one we've been percolating on. And but yeah, I mean, briefly, other than that, I mean, just should we do a quick, like, in this last week, what have you guys been up to? I've been just working on my videos, doing that stuff while my gigging schedule's been down. So
What have I done? I'm off from any teaching this week, which
you're
is
off, aren't you?
well, kind of, but it turns out I'm gigging Thursday, Friday, Saturday. No, Thursday, Friday, Saturday. So Friday,
That's your week
Thursday,
off.
Friday are on bass. Oh, 2 bass gigs in 1 week. What an absolute charlatan.
Big guitar.
Yeah, man, with my my new bass rig, if you like. But that's fun. Although it went really well. Although there's like one tune. What was it? It was The Cure, Friday I'm in Love, and I haven't really played that one that much. And it's not hard. It's just the phrasing's a bit odd. It's like a 6-chord sort of phrase, if you like. It's like a 6-bar phrase. And I'd sort of written it down on the just next to the thing. It's like, yeah, just in case I forget. And I didn't write the letter G out properly, so I ended up starting halfway through. And then the singer I couldn't hear myself. They didn't have enough channels for in-ears. And the singer's singing, and he just sort of turns to me and goes, "Are you all right?" So I'm just like playing the right notes, just not in the right order. But that was a nice moment.
Yeah.
But
We've Bob. I've just seen Bobby Harrison in the chat, and I think he's just want to say
Oh.
hi to him. I need to not focus on his MK50.
lovely bit of gear that he's
The Mark
I
II.
just want- yeah, MK50 Mark II. I'm trying my darndest to resist.
get it.
What Martin Kidd mega amp. Who
Absolute
played one of
timepiece.
those live, like
Piece of
famous?
his-
Was
piece
it
of
Dweezil
history.
Zappa? I think Dweezil Zappa
Say
used
again?
one. Dweezil Zappa used one of them, I think.
Man, loads of guys use them.
Yeah.
I remember first.
No, but the
reading
Mark
about
II in particular.
I thought Satriani had used one in the late 90s. I remember that's when I first reading about. I don't know if it's the Mark II, but yeah.
Oh,
An early
Richie Kotzen was on.
yeah, but that was
for a bit.
but
that's
yeah,
the-
but the Mark II specifically.
Oh, okay.
Which Mark, Jake? Was it the Mark II?
It was the Mark II.
Okay.
Mark 50, Martin Kidd 50, Mark II.
Yeah, just a clarification.
Yeah. The Richie Kotzen one was the RK. 50. But again, like this is kind of weird for me, because this is like my hood, like where I
Sure,
grew
hood.
up. That was there. That, like, obviously growing up in
Yeah.
Kent, Cornford were like our local amps, and obviously I've known Martin for multi decades from a young lad.
Just a man in a shed down the road.
Um,
There he goes again.
Yeah, he's the nicest guy, Martin, as well, isn't he?
Yeah,
And he's a player. He's total. Like, I was totally surprised at how much he can burn.
Yeah.
Because he's so unassuming, and like the sort of the tinkering wizard with with a soldering iron building amps, and then he like picks up like a super strat guitar at NAMM and just does some burning.
Starts dive bombing.
Well,
Yeah.
that was the thing, wasn't it? Like, he was is a player, and so his tendency was not like a sort of, in theory, cork sniffing hipster guy or something. It was like, no, this is what I like. This is what I would like these amps to sound like. Let's go. Which was the success anyway of it. But obviously that's all history now. But yeah, still nice to see that, like.
But
people
so that's why I figure, like, It's a kind of a tempter because it's like a piece of history in some ways, but I don't know whether that's just my sort of bias towards that era. But
But
yeah, I mean,
weirdly, this connects to our subject also, because I don't
kind
know
of
if you,
does, doesn't it? In
yeah,
a
I don't
way,
know if
yeah.
you remember like the way like so many people. There was like a period in the noughties where so many people were using, Cornford Hurricanes or Carreras
Yeah,
to like record those demos because they were like the
yeah.
ideal recording apps before we were using Kempers and software and stuff like that.
Well, Cornford kick-started that sort of 5 watt, 6 watt boutique sort of recording studio amp, didn't they? Really? I mean, I don't remember anything.
Yeah, maybe in a
Was
high
there anything
gain
before
domain
it?
or like a mid high gain domain because obviously the Fender Champ is kind of along those lines, right? Um, and other
That's a.
champs,
I mean, you're not
maybe it's
gonna.
use
Yeah.
case,
I mean, what's the champ though? That's not 5 watts,
isn't it?
is
What
it?
is it? It's tiny.
What's the Fender champ? Is
Ah, what
I must
is?
be getting.
What is
If
the Fender Champ?
anyone we
What's
need to
the
get
wattage?
Jamie to
Oh,
What's oh
it's 5 watts. Yeah, I just don't know my
suck
Fender
it, suck
smalls.
it, Beebs. Let the record show.
I've got it here ready. I've got it here ready.
knock some graphics up on screen, just have a number 1 point next
we
to
get a
it.
we get a seriously warned YouTube warning.
Oh dear.
This
Okay.
is because okay, just for the listeners and the viewers, like so what I'm talking about here is I was using like a little DJI mic and I think we were having some audio issues and I was a bit quiet. So I've gone back to my kind of off screen, but it's not off screen, sort of like microphone. That's the word I
Yeah.
want.
Boom.
Phallic boom.
Phallic boom.
Boom. Phallic boom.
Look, okay. Now,
So hopefully you can hear me better again now.
seriously, if there was if there was any kind of pedal that I would need to put in front of the time horse, it would be a phallic boom.
Phallic boom. So it's got a little graphic of an edited guile on the front. Or he's just behind the toggle switch.
All right, so we could be millionaires tomorrow if we go through this.
Mate, do that and then like put in on my millionaires theory of relaunching Panda Pops. If we all bought the rights to Panda Pops and re-released it, we'd be millionaires.
Possibly.
Oh,
So
so
what's Ed's Cornford?
that's what I was going to say. So our friend in
brilliant.
Birmingham, Ed, he goes to the guitar show with, and we have an annual curry and a jam with Ed.
Just go and hang out in
in
his cave
Birmingham.
of wonders full of curry.
Man, he's got MK52 Mark II, Jake, the Mark II, and an RK as well. And the two 4x12s, the two heads, and a big pedal board and stuff. It's just yeah, amps of wonders.
Those cabs were
Yeah.
quite distinctive sounding, if I remember rightly. Like very, they were very nice, but they had this like kind of really projecting mid-range character that that was quite interesting. It's hard with cabs. It's hard to say if it's like amazing or bad. It's just whatever suits the music you're using it for.
Yeah, at the time, and the room the cab is in as well.
Yeah.
When the bigger, yeah.
Yeah, there's a
So
lot
it's,
of theories about open back and closed back. It's just whatever
and
bloody works.
And also, I find like what my ears like in the room versus what my ears like with a microphone on it. So my Friedman, my 2x12s, V30s, and I like it in the room. But whenever I'm using IRs, I always gravitate more towards greenbacks and not,
Right.
V30s. With cabs and things, modeling.
I
Which is
did
interesting.
a weird amount of experimentation on this point ages and ages ago. And I ended up basically like just gravitating towards V30s in general. They're just a good all rounder. But again, I was using it for just anything. A V30 and a sort of like a slightly oversized 1x12 V30 gets you most of the way there. Obviously, there are other considerations, but yeah.
Oh, the cabs are available.
I think it's weird, isn't it? Like 9 times out of 10, it's going to be similar stuff that just does the job. But that's another topic. We should get on to the serious topic of
Yeah,
the Guitar Techniques final issue and its closure. Um, it
indeed. So
it did take me by
say
surprise a
cheers
little
to
bit.
Guitar Techniques ending. But I mean, I think you say, I guess it's surprising, but it's also not surprising.
Yeah, that's
In
what I
some
mean. It's
ways,
like
I guess. But
it seemed to be going, like it seemed to still be producing. I mean,
yeah.
I was lucky enough to be featured in it a few weeks ago. A
Shall we
month.
just briefly say for the international listeners, just recap what GT is or was, I guess, and just as a brief
Yeah.
like kind of um, potted history, I guess. I, like in a nutshell, it was like the sort of premier sort of learning magazine material in the 90s, I think. It started, I think it was 94, um, sort of early mid 94. And it was like so many magazines at the time were all about just the adverts and the products and, just cramming things in. This tended to skew more towards actual like educational pages. There was a lot of dots, a lot of tab, a lot of sort of good knowledge being disseminated through this magazine, and it was a real treasure trove of my early learning periods. And I think for many people of our kind of age and generation, it was something that kind of we'd use to learn songs, learn sort of theory nuggets. It was one of the highlights of my paper round, using my paper round money at the end of the month to get the next Guitar Techniques magazine. And 5 a.m. on a weekday morning, just going in and getting the fresh copy of Guitar Techniques was, yeah, a highlight. So I remember I've got a couple here just for, this is what they look like back in the day. This was the second magazine. So this is January 96. And this was the first time I remember like ever kind of learning to sort of shred a little bit, because this has got Satriani's Hordes of Locusts, and it was the first kind of Satriani tune I ever learned. Guthrie doing the lesson. And I remember sitting on my bed with my Squire, my red Squire, just kind of going through the legato lines just over and over and over again. And then all of a sudden, this like little breakthrough happening. I still remember this. Just sat on my bed and just all of a sudden my fingers started moving quickly and a bit quicker. It was such an exciting formative moment. And so I credit that sort of burst of technical kind of breakthrough to that, diligently going through the Guitar Techniques transcriptions. And yeah, fond memories, and sad to hear it going. All those guys in the UK scene, the 90s sort of UK scene, educators and journalists were, yeah, really really important to me. So
Yeah, and they're still sort of legends now, really, in their own ways. Still like, active in the kind of guitar community in different and new ways. But I think the one of the main innovations of the Guitar Techniques thing was that it would come with a CD. Um,
yeah,
but
that's it.
before, sometimes later on with a CD-ROM with video and stuff. But back in the day, it would be, oh yeah, we're gonna do 5 licks in the style of this person, and I think they would have like fast and slow versions of the lick and the lick itself in tab, and you'd be like, wow, I can actually I can actually do something with this rather than the other alternative. I guess you'd buy that like a tab book for a record or something. This way, it was a slightly different idea, taking on like a style of someone and doing something, or even there were direct transcriptions, and then they would make the backing track for that song, and it was incredibly, you know, the amount of work that went into each magazine was quite remarkable.
Yeah.
Especially when you consider the level of technology that was available to do these things, without get good drums and Mac Mini
Plugins.
M1s. Yeah,
Yeah.
it was quite like a sort of, I guess, things were so much more gate kept back then to like genuinely really high level
Yeah.
professionals. And one of the
And
benefits
also I think there
that
was
they just did a lot of good stuff and put us onto great players that I'd never heard of. So it's a really kind of an amazing resource, and obviously the world has changed around it, but that's you know it was a big part of all our lives, I think.
Mm.
I guess back in the day, it's
It
a
was
way
also something
into.
in the.
Oh, go on. So
Sorry,
I
Dan.
guess
No,
back in
no,
the day,
Dan,
it's a
go
way
ahead.
into the players. If you see what I mean, like, because all the all these bands and stuff would turn up, but you didn't have the internet. You couldn't be like, who's the guitarist in that band? You were relying on things like magazines to be like, oh, who is this Paul Gilbert guy, or who is this Billy Sheehan? You know what I mean? Or like, who are these guys behind a lot of the big guitar players of the day, in the early days anyway, were in bands. A lot of the guys, so it's kind of you'd see a band, and then for the most part, the hierarchy goes. Everyone kind of knows who the singer is, and then it was like, oh, then everyone knows who the guitar player is, and then it sort of go from there. But it was a way of being like, oh, this guy's a beast. What's his deal? And then there's a whole feature on just the guy. It's not necessarily about the band anymore. It's not like it'd be Slash. It wouldn't be Guns N' Roses. It'd be like this guy, or like the magazine I was saying to you, Beebs. I had a core memory of remembering this magazine, and I couldn't remember if it was Guitar Techniques or if it was Guitar World or something. But it had Eugene's trip bag in it, and Beebs was like, oh, went into the vault, pulled out a scroll. But in there, it's like Tony Iommi 10 riffs. Like, it's about the player. It's not, there will be Black Sabbath riffs, obviously, but it's not about Black Sabbath. It's about the player, which is quite a nice thing.
Yeah, I think it started off with that, and then it turned into Phil Hilborn's A to Z of Great Riffs series, which went on for years, I think, through at least once around the alphabet, maybe more, but it was it always had at least one full song transcription and a full backing track, but maybe sometimes a couple, and then as just jazz standards, it had like very little different styles. It really did run the gamut of different styles, and it was certainly like an opportunity for a career in guitar that like it was almost like when I was kind of growing up, it was like the goal. It was something to potentially aspire to in some ways, because it was pre internet where guitar became a possible career path again. I think there was so much, as Jake said, referred to as like gatekeeping, and that can be a good and a bad thing. But it was the idea of being a successful, widdly guitar player in the 90s was almost a complete non-thing, because of how the stylistically things had changed so much. So I think a lot of those guys of that generation and era like were in the print journalist industry as a career path, and I certainly saw it that way as like a potential aspiration, because um like the chances of having any kind of like career outside of that seemed I don't know, there didn't seem to be those kind of industries anymore. And also I think maybe in the 90s it was still a thing, but I also think maybe the kind of the idea of the session was potentially already um seeded as declining. So yeah, I think that it's interesting how, coming on to the point of it sort of ending, is that in some ways, Jake, you mentioned the CD-ROM, and in some ways, maybe that was the birth of the downfall. In that, like, if
Yeah,
you follow
maybe.
the sort of seeds of the technology of like,
The
you've got
hyperlink.
the CD-ROM that becomes like checking it out online, and then it's like it births its own demise in some ways, because obviously,
Mm.
what happened then is like you would imagine that print media and the sort of niche aspects of these hobby magazine things are much harder to survive in an online kind of
Mm.
world now, in a YouTube world. So
Someone's
which is
mentioned, it's much easier to use online tabs or Guitar Pro, and there is an ease in that. However, a lot of Guitar Pro stuff is user generated, so there's no guarantee it's going to be correct. So I guess with the magazine thing, there's a certain level of, not prestige, but there's a certain level of trust there, in that they're showing you how it's actually done, and it's
Mm.
vetted, and it's like, it's
well, it's
even
the
like
gatekeeping aspect that
Well,
Jake's
yeah.
talking about. It's a
oh right,
positive aspect of that, isn't it? It's
And
like that's a good thing in that sense, in that all these guys were great players, and there was a selection, process of it,
There
meaning
might be
that you
minor
could sort of,
reputational damage if they get it wrong.
yeah, and they were so the caliber of yeah, exactly, the caliber of the transcriptions I think was always very high from what I could gather, to the point where I would sometimes compare and contrast like the Guitar Techniques version of transcription with an official tab book, and yeah, the Guitar Techniques version would often be more accurate
Yep.
in terms of
Yeah.
which is, and that's I always found that really telling of like, so they haven't just gone someone because in theory I imagine you could just go and like get the tab book and just start copying, but just for save some time, but no, you can see the differences, and you can see the sort of improvements and the accuracy of what they were doing, those guys, Dave Kay and Guthrie and Cohen. Like it's just phenomenal, really, really. The amount, as Jake says, the amount of work that it must have taken in a month to do that and put it all together is kind of amazing. And it's such a such an educational sort of resource of that time, that as Dan, Jake, you're alluding to there, it's like you've just got such a like a the prestige of it, and a trust aspect to it. Whereas I think the Wild West, the internet and YouTube and everything, the online world's like a double-edged sword, isn't it? Because you suddenly get access to everyone, and that's a great thing, and potentially it can also be an overwhelming thing. You
Yeah,
don't
and
know
also
necessarily
you
what you're
get
getting.
to discover things via algorithm rather than by someone else's curation, which is kind of interesting. I would think, so there was that classic Guthrie does 20 guitarists.
Hmm.
Right, at that time, who were the sort of 20 guitarists that he did? And obviously, like now, like who are the famous guitar players who people are listening to? Well, no, let me just phrase that another way. Like big people in the guitar world probably now tend more towards maybe YouTube and Instagram personalities or influencers. Or at least they make
Yeah.
up a chunk of it. You know what I'm trying to get at there. It's kind of it's a kind of
Hmm.
interesting a bunch of things to just think about there, that what they were doing was putting forward people before the sort of influencer age. Like if I look through this Guthrie Govan plays 20 guitarists thing, you have people that
Yeah.
maybe aren't that much sort of spoken about nowadays. People like um, Sonny Landreth, there's all sorts. Albert Lee, Mark Knopfler. These are obviously like classic, brilliant guitar players. James Taylor, even, but like in an Instagram age, a lot has changed. A lot has really moved into different sort of realms of whatever the guitar hero is. But I'm not really sure where I was going at with that. I just felt that there was a
No,
different
that's a good
sort
point,
of.
actually, Jake. I think you're onto something there, because potentially, like, it could be much harder to continue what they're doing with those newer kinds of players because they're already disseminating stuff anyway. Whereas I think what Tom said before is there was like, there used to be like a somewhat of a curtain, sort of the holy curtain separating the kind of gods and greats from us, and we didn't have access to it in such a way that magazines like this were like a bit of a through line to that.
Yeah, that's
Whereas,
a conduit, if you're.
yeah, yeah, exactly. So when you've got like, if you're birthed on Instagram and you become, or someone like
Oh,
take like
birthed on Instagram.
When was
birthed on
Instagram when Instagram was founded?
IG. Well, if you take somebody like so like I say, take Mateo right now, who's like one of the hottest names and younger players, like there's so much access to what he's done because he came about via posting videos in the first place, that I'm trying to imagine, like, I know he was on the cover of one of the recent magazines, the Guitar Techniques magazines, which is why I'm sort of bringing it up, but I wonder if it's just
Mm.
a harder thing to do with players of the, to package them for a print magazine monthly
Yeah, they
when
need no
everyone's
conduit.
already online anyway.
Yeah, there's so much.
Whereas exactly, yeah,
There's so much Corey Wong stuff out there.
already there, yeah.
What's the guitar techniques going to bring to that
Yeah.
at the
Yeah.
expense that it would be to bring to market?
Whereas you still
Now,
can't get Mark Knopfler on speed dial online, or but those guys are getting older and older, and there's fewer and
yeah.
fewer of them. So it's like,
So
yeah,
Instagram was founded in 2010.
Yeah.
So technically, there's like probably 14-year-old guitar prodigies who've had uh who have had Instagram their entire lives.
Wow.
Yeah,
Birthed on Instagram.
that's birthed on literally that.
Literally birthed on.
I mean,
Literally
the
birthed on
realistic
Instagram.
the realistic window of influence there means that anyone sort of under the age of 21 has basically always existed meaningfully with Instagram as like the main algorithm, the main pusher. And YouTube is obviously predates that. But I think the quick nature of Instagram also changed even the YouTube platform, or helped it find what it is. But with relation to guitar magazines, it must be, and even blogs, like these kind of niche interest hobby type blogs, the meaning of them in meat space, there is a value added by having something printed out for sure. And in my hands, I do like that, but it just doesn't seem to be how people live anymore.
Well, it also requires somewhat of a commitment to a thing, an object space in time, where you are then like, and our lives are just so fragmented in that sense, in that it's the kind of attention span sort of skipping thing is just you can't really do that if you've got your one magazine there. You're limited to that.
Yeah. So
And,
can I elaborate on that a little bit, because you just made me think of what my practicing habits were back in the day, and I didn't have a laptop, right? I had maybe an MP3 player that I could hook up to like a small PA with an amp by me and play in the conservatory in the old sort of where I grew up. And I could play relatively loud because it was not attached to anything. So I'd sit and play guitar and maybe put the magazine or a tab book or something on a music stand and read that, or like a book I'd bought.
I'm
Right?
just picturing the four Yorkshiremen Monty Python thing now. You had a
music
you only
stand.
dream of laptop music.
No, but think about like how
I
the
didn't have a
laptop.
computer.
Okay, contrast that. Okay, I contrast that with what we do now, which is I normally put my educational material on my screen and play in the same place quite quietly. There's no like significant rigmarole or investment to get like a sound or anything. It's a really different sort of style of less sort of monastic.
It's a fair point actually, because I think I had, it was things like guitar magazines, tab books, stuff from my teacher that he'd written out. I had a little JVC 3 CD changer, which I fucking absolutely loved, and I thought it was so cool when it came out and you press the button and it like kind of spins round.
Oh man!
Wow, so futuristic.
Ghetto blasters.
I had one of those as well, like the proper Kevin and Perry one back in the day. But yeah, it wasn't the situation where it's not the situation like if I sit in here and practice, there's potentially 3 screens in front of me. I've got, my phone's there. I've got this screen. I've got this screen. The problem with the screen thing, not just the screen thing, but the problem with like putting your materials on a laptop or an iPad or a computer is that those are not a one function thing.
Yeah,
whereas the magazine, it does.
Distracted.
Yeah, the magazine, it's like I am a magazine. I have these things in there. I used to. So this is other guitar magazines are available, obviously, but the magazines I
don't know if they are. They're all down.
well, they're not now. Yeah,
They're all
actually,
The
they're not.
one, literally the one we're talking about isn't available.
When I was younger, the neighbor across the road, her older brother played guitar, and I think he was moving out to go to university or something, and he just came over with this like box of all these old guitar mags and was like, "Do you want these?" And that's where I got the one with Eugene's Trick Bag in it. But I'd sit there in one of those magazines and just look at tabs and try and play songs that I'd never even heard of. Because I was just like, this is what I've got.
Time.
It's all there was, in a way.
That's,
you know what I mean?
That's how I even like, because my parents were totally not musical at all. Like I mean, they had like 3 records at home. And so a lot of my even discovering what music was through like, you know, Guitar Techniques or the magazines. So my first exposure to any kind of bands or rock music or I remember my 3rd magazine had Fleetwood Mac and Peter Green in it, and so all this stuff was like, it was like a real like say a lifeline, but like a, you know, just casting the net out into this world of sound.
It held your hands.
Amazing.
It held your hand and brought you to the promised land.
What's I going to say? Oh, it's gone.
But they're fun memories for me, those, because it is like you are lost in a space. You know what I mean? Like if you're reading if you read an actual, you know, reading a book that you're really into, you're just in the thing, you're in the little world, and then sitting there with this book, and it's like, oh, I wonder what this song's like, I wonder what that song's like. Before you know it, you're playing a Creedence Clearwater Revival song you've never heard at 2 a.m.
I remember
geography in the morning.
They tabbed the full Friends song theme tune. Thinking like,
wasn't there? There was one of the magazines had
great.
an article on sitcom links, and they were like, "What makes a good one?" And it's like, well, you have to do it where there's no resolution; it leaves it open. It was all this little like, you know, sitcom riffs. I was like,
opening the scene.
yeah.
The practicing thing's interesting because I specifically, when I got my deluxe reverb, I set it up away from all the screens. So when I'm practicing, just trying to practice, that's not happened for a little bit, but when I'm just trying to practice jazz, I've specifically just got a music stand and my jazz box and the amp away from everything else. And I don't know if that's like just partly a psychological thing as well that makes it feel like I'm doing something intentional, that's different, that's not distracted, that's and I probably need all the help I can get.
It's like being in the guitar office, isn't it? Because like going into the actual office with all this office stuff where you might be halfway through something and then an email pops up, or
it's not.
I'll just do that. I'll just do that.
Well, yeah.
Like if I am going to actually practice, I don't really do it in here most of the time. I'll just sit on my sofa with a little lamp.
Yeah, that's what
and
I mean.
I've got printed out music. So you know, I'm yet to get another iPad. It's on the cards, but yeah, I'll just kind of sit there and get lost in there, and it just feels. Now I've done that a few times. Psychologically, that's where that happens. If that makes sense. Like if I'm in here and I'm doing it, it feels like I'm doing it to cram for a gig. It's super weird psychologically. If I'm doing it in here, I'm cramming for a gig or something. If I'm doing it in the other room, I'm doing it for myself.
Yeah, that's exactly. I mean, I think having those kind of veering off topic a little bit, but we're sort of, I think having those separations of like your areas of space to do different things is kind of helpful. I've definitely found that with practicing, certainly the jazz thing, and editing. Like I'll even just, it's probably a stupid idea because it's a much smaller screen on this laptop, but I will take my laptop over to the kitchen and just sit at the kitchen table and edit videos, because it's like, it's not.
It's like doing your homework at the kitchen table.
Yeah. Yes.
Another thought just occurred to me as well, which was because there would be like, you know, mad transcription sometimes, like even just sort of aesthetically difficult to look at.
They go through like Sean Lane kind of vibes.
Exactly.
Fly shit on a page.
Yeah, but there was an element to which
I'll find some.
That introduced me to the idea that could even be done.
Mm-hmm.
Which, we sort of take for granted, but the idea that, oh no, they must have like got amazing ears. They listened to that and then they've written it down, and that's pretty cool. You know, that's like a human did that. You can't do that at this stage by a computer. There's no way. Now there's like, you can turn audio to MIDI and things like that, but oh gosh, yes.
Oh, it's not gonna.
Oh no, you can sort of see it, but that is those are some decent chains. What is that out of interest?
That's Hordes of Locusts.
Ah,
The solo from Hordes of Locusts.
Yeah, you
Yeah,
are
that's my
right
first
there, Jake,
Satriani
actually.
solo.
Like, because there is this thing of like hearing something on a record and being like, that is mental. And then having a guy go, oh, here's how you do that. It's like, wait, other people apart from the guy that does it can do that.
yeah.
Yeah,
And here it is written down. It's like, you too, here mortal. And this
irony
scroll
of that,
down.
Yeah. The irony of that is that I remember, because I didn't know who Guthrie was at the time, so I was listening to Guthrie do it, thinking, oh well, if Guthrie can do it, then maybe.
Yeah. Like this if magazine
this hairy
guy,
povo can do it.
Because and then it wasn't until obviously much later that you just realize that, holy shit, he smokes just everybody, everything.
it is
Even-
kind of nuts to think like literally the most accomplished guitar player on the planet was making some of his living writing for a magazine in relative anonymity.
Yeah, it's bonkers, isn't it?
It's very different to Steve Vai's origin story, for example. But then they're very different.
Yeah, this is. But I was obviously listening and looking and reading and thinking, being amazed by that somebody could do it, as Jake and Dan was saying, like someone else is doing it other than the guy that does it. But it was that total lack of awareness because for so many reasons, just my age and just the industry and Guthrie's place in the industry at the time, and it wasn't until all those years later it's like, oh yeah, it's just like super easy for him. Yeah, amazing.
Oh man, there is. No, see, now I'm thinking about the Guitar Magazine thing and the youth. I am getting this sort of like slightly rose tinted nostalgia about stuff because, like Jake said, it is sort of curated. You're not constantly getting pulled around like you are with like algorithms and reels and things now, and like you just be like I would get I would get Total Guitar, but one of them, an example is like I was having guitar lessons at the time, but the internet wasn't really. It was a thing, but it wasn't the thing like it is now. iPhones, social media wasn't a thing. It's absolutely nowhere near what it was now. If you wanted to, if you wanted to get a tab, it'd be like one of those ones that's done on like a, like MX tabs or whatever. When it's like sort of done on a word processor, and it's just so hard to even tell what's going on.
Man, yeah, just as a text document.
I
remember tabbing stuff out in Notepad on Windows in the late 90s, just literally just doing lots of hyphens, hyphen, 0, hyphen, 6, hyphen, 1.
Press the wrong button and it all completely, yeah. But I was having lessons and I'd get these magazines and I'd be looking through stuff and I would get to a point where I'd come across something in a guitar magazine. I'd be like, oh, what's that? And then I'd go to my guitar lesson and be like, oh, what's this? And then the things kind of fed each other. It was like outside learning. It was like having a mate going, oh, what about this? Have you checked this out? I remember going to, I think it might have been Total Guitar, maybe. It was a transcription for Shy Boy, the David Lee Roth, Steve Vai, Billy Sheehan extravaganza. And I remember going to my guitar lesson that week, going like, "What's a pinched harmonic?" And then like, we kind of learned how to do that. But good times, man. Good times.
Learning to do pinched harmonics, man. When they started popping out, woo.
It's one of the. It's such a shit thing to practice, and it's such an annoying thing. Like hearing someone practice. Like if you're in a house with somebody that is trying to get good at an instrument, it's probably not great to listen to either way. Like I think pinched harmonics is just like thunk, thunk. Oh, half a one. Oh, got one. It's like hearing a saxophone player do that. What's it called? Is that altissimo or something? What's the proper screechy stuff? Like, you're basically trying to force out this tiny squeaky sound, but anyway.
Yeah. Yeah.
Do we think
Yeah,
the print media thing for guitar is on its last legs? Like, who's left? Is guitar Total Guitar, is that left or is that gone?
Oh, guitarist still a thing? Is that still a
Guitarist is
thing?
still a thing,
Guitarist.
yeah. It's got to be because that's like their flagship, I think. Like we're all like rose
Well,
tinted about the guitar techniques, but the sort of we have to remember that some of the appeal to your rank and file amateur is um gear and legend and stories and romance.
of course, yeah. I wonder if actually
Which
that
are all great.
funded guitar techniques in some ways. I wonder if that sort of helped. I always kind of puzzled about the economics of it in terms of how it all worked. And did you guys? I got tagged. I think some of you guys did as well in a job, um, a application thing for the new magazine or whatever that's continuing via Guitar World or something for reviewing guitars and things. And it was it was just going through the the you say is print dying, etc. Yes, potentially, but yeah, it's just remarkably interesting the job and the financial compensation on offer of like what actually entails. It's in 2024. It's kind of shocking in a way, not in a good way.
Yeah,
So yes, I would imagine it is dying.
but there's also another element there,
Jake
which
can't
is
hear you. Oh, have
you
I
can't hear
lost?
me.
It's me.
I can hear
Am
you.
I
Do
down
you?
here?
Okay. Oh, we're
Oh
having some
crap!
technical
I think
issues
my
here.
starfish is gone.
Oh,
Oh no, not your starfish.
Elon
I
Musk is
think my
messing with Bibbs
starfish has
again.
failed again.
Oh, bear with
Ah,
us, gentlemen.
make internet great
Lady.
again. Hold
Oh,
on,
what's
I'm
the
going to
online
change it.
guitar archive? That sounds interesting. I'll have to investigate that.
Damn it! Can I make you one of you guys the host so I can reboot?
Yeah, I'll just put a be right back just so that
Shit.
just so the thing doesn't thingy, like the boxes don't mess up. We can still talk from the nether though if you want, Jake. While it says be right back.
From the nether. Are we pausing?
I'm not going to move anything around because when he comes back, it'll throw it back. We'll be right back, guys. We are back. How about that?
Beebs is back.
Let's go.
Back again.
I did have like one little extra thought about this, and it's a thing that comes up quite often in the way we talk about things. But now I think everyone is such a sort of curator of what they want to like get. And so like an all-in-one magazine is selling so much stuff that that person, rather than being like open to it, it's like, well, no, if I want something, I can get it. Thank you.
But you
Because
sort of can't beat the algorithm in that
yeah,
way. You
yeah,
can't beat the
exactly.
recommended tab.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. And you know, sort of stay in your lane. But I when I was a kid, I'd be like, oh, what's Travis picking? And then Travis picking would be in front of me for like 2 weeks. Now I'm not going to say I ever did it with any success, but it was there. It was like showing me a thing that was outside of myself to enjoy. But I just got this in the little break, which is the
Look at that
most
handsome lad.
yeah, the most sought after guitar techniques of all time, which is the one with me in it, which is I think
Shaddington
The
6
rare
3
Jake Wilson
yeah
variant
2.
cover.
Lucky enough to
cover.
scrape it, like it was a little goal of mine to be in one of these magazines.
Yeah, totally. I would've.
Scraped in just before the end. But yeah, I managed some fly shit of my own.
Oh, nice. Oh,
Yeah. So yeah,
Ooh.
but that was a really fun moment for me.
Yeah, man, that's great.
Um, so I didn't talk about this when we were doing catch-ups because we didn't do catch-ups, but I went to see Dream Theater's 40th anniversary gig at the O2.
nice.
Yeah, it was
How was
so. I mean, the set list was pretty great.
perfect set list by
Yeah,
the look of it. Amazing.
some of those songs I haven't played for a long, long time, and it was just JP's tone was chef's kiss.
Big time.
Yeah, it was great. Mark Portnoy played his ass off.
Mark Portnoy.
Mark Portnoy. Uh, it was so good. And like a lot of that is nostalgia, and of course, you know, there's a band being around that long is quite a miracle nowadays.
Especially for your average song length is like 11 minutes and 30 seconds.
There was a sense that yes, but there was a sense of like weird kinship looking around at like the O2 Arena, which is one of the biggest stadiums in the country. I don't know what the capacity is, but it was kind of like, oh wow, we're all in the same church. You know, it was kind of nuts.
Was it rammed as well?
It was sold out, and it
Oh,
was
wow.
what was amazing about it as well was that um they had like no gimmicks really. They had like a few screens behind them, and when you see a lot of these O2 productions that they put on, you know, these like big pop stars, because if you travel to the UK, lots of big artists are going to play that place, and they're going to put on these kind of shows of lights and sort of a big set and things like that. It was really gimmick free. It was just a band in front of all these people essentially. It was very very fun and great to be there. It did feel sort of historical in a way, like one of those sort of I was there type gigs. I'm glad I went.
I just googled it. The capacity for O2 is 20,000 according to Google.
Wow.
So
Yeah.
Big gig.
Yeah, big gigs, big things, big things coming. So yeah, there were no amps or cabs on stage for either Petrucci or John Mayung. I was sat like in row G, so like
yeah, he sent us a little sneaky video,
close to the
and they
front.
look pretty.
Yeah,
You know, you could see the beard glisten.
yeah. I was getting individual follicles.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, so seeing Dream Theater in this sort of, I guess it's the first time I've seen them ampless.
Yeah. So what? I mean, I'm presuming he's still using his boogies. I mean, he's gonna be, isn't he? But that's interesting that
I don't
it's
know,
gonna be
man.
off.
I don't know. Like, it certainly wasn't on stage.
What you think he's running the JP neural plugin on a MacBook on a
JP
MacBook Pro?
archetype.
No, they did show us. There was like some camera footage onto screens, and you did see that he didn't have like a massive floorboard. It was everything like a. If I was to guess, I'd say like
Miming.
No, Axe FX probably. I would guess that would be my guess. Maybe it's wrong. I'd be really interested in if he does like a
Mm.
rig. I'm not gonna say rig rundown because I know you get in trouble with
But he's
that
got such a
that company if you
I
say
mean,
something.
it could be like this is just the Europe sort of leg vibes. Like if they were in America, maybe they'd be driving around
Oh, I don't know.
full gear. But
can't
I know
even
because
get
you can
boogies in
hire
Europe
stuff, can't
anymore,
you? But
can you?
Yeah,
yeah,
you
No,
can't get
well, that's
boogies.
it. There's no boogies in UK at all anymore.
Well, I
Still,
mean,
let's
John
imagine.
Petrucci can get what he likes, I assume.
I imagine Truch can probably get
I
something.
think Petrucci can
JP
get,
does what he wants.
JP gets his boogs, but no. There was another thing as well which kind of interested me on like a sort of technical level. Um, there was definitely some use of like Ableton or Click. Definitely some like there would have had to have been for the video to sync up and all that sort of thing. But John Petrucci had wedges. So whether he's got like, a sort of maybe he's doing like a one ear out thing with the click or something like that, or maybe only uh Rude Destiny's a click, but there are also bits that it almost sounded like they weren't using a click. So I'm really not sure what was going on there. Um yeah, I would be fascinated to know more about how they're putting that show together nowadays. Because there were aspects of it that were remarkably old school. Um and aspects of it that were very sort of new. John Mayung looking down at his iPad. That's quite interesting. Jordan Rudess has got this like crazy keyboard rig now.
Keytar as well.
Oh yeah, and the Keytar of Doom and pedal steel, not pedal steel. Sorry, no steel, just a steel guitar that he uses for Octavarium intro. So he's actually playing like the instrument. Uh, yeah, that was kind of nuts, kind of fun. Um, I think we were saying as well that I don't think I don't think it's going to upset anyone to say that James Labrie, in an ideal world, you would put some of the songs down a key, like if it was like less
Yeah.
difficult stuff. But
Yeah.
actually, you can't really move the keys around for some of this because of the it would just make it impossible to play. So they have to triage the situation, and they've saved the music of it. But he's not a young man anymore. He's just not going to be able to sing, and he's got a whole tour ahead of him. I can't imagine how difficult it is to like manage yourself. But he did make a lot of those big hero moments. But I think he definitely paced himself throughout the gig.
Yes, I noticed in some of the footage I was watching that he was sort of obviously just like changing the melodies just much lower, just kind of improvising the melodies lower down and
Yeah,
whatever.
it's like
Just
options. They're like you should
Yeah.
an option line or something, but it doesn't work as well. And obviously, um, it's a shame. But I think all the fans have made their peace with that fact because it's just unrealistic to expect anything else. It'd be a minor miracle. I don't think any.
yeah,
Do we know any singers that
but
have ever got into that like people complain about Bon Jovi now? Uh, like you'll always find clips of these older singers that are just struggling with their instrument.
I saw
well,
a clip
Bon
of
Jovi's
Macca.
had particularly specific issue with his voice for a long, long time, and obviously that was on the wane, and he's had surgery, I suppose, trying to. But I think he's probably beyond the point of recovery, sadly for John. But with Labrie, I find it super interesting because I've watched him throughout his career go up and down in some serious peaks and troughs. So there was the falling into infinity era where it was kind of shoddy, and then so when I first saw him live in
I
the
was
early
trying to be all
2000s,
nice, like to a guy who's like going into
no, no,
this.
no. I'm
Like,
about to be
oh
really
no, it's
nice.
like
No, no, no. Look, I'm about to be really nice. So what I'm saying is, I was expecting to when I first saw Dream Theater live, and I saw them, I was expecting it to be kind of poor, and he absolutely fucking smashed it. Like
really.
the Train of Thought, 6 Degrees, and Train of Thought time tours that I saw him on. It was godlike vocals. I absolutely loved it, and I'm not a James Labrie hater in the slightest. I've often I think defended him to a lot. So, but what my point is, I think that the nature of how difficult some of that stuff is to do and sing over the course of the multi hours that they do, and the tour and the age and things. It's but I just don't think it's a clear with like Bon Jovi. It's a clear from '96 after the These Days tour. There was a clear like it's just been down and down and down. With James LeBrie in this instance, it's like as I've watched him over the decades, it's very much been sort of up and down with his vocals. So I wouldn't. What my point is, and I'm being nice here, Jake. My point is to potentially I wouldn't be writing him off that he's got this big tour ahead. It could totally be an off night.
Yeah.
Fortunately. So
Do you think it's the same
I'm
kind
not
of
being
thing?
a bastard.
When people write sort of progressive music, the writing process and the recording process is quite different to how we're going to do this live. And like vocally, there's probably,
Yeah.
I feel like there's way more weight on that, because you can sit here and like write like a really fucking cool riff and then go right, and then we're going to go into this, and you can like piece it all together and even record it in little, record it in those chunks. And then to do it live, it's like, right, fuck me, I've got a lot of work to do. But it's kind of all in the same, physically, it's kind of in the same realm. But the vocal thing is like a whole other echelon. That Lukather book that I'm reading, it was talking about Bobby Kimball from Toto, how when they were doing the recordings, they were like loads of takes to like really try, and he was getting really pushed to try and hit these notes, and like, so that when it came to doing it live, it was just like a real issue, because it might have been the 10th take live to try in the studio to like get this thing out, and then to do that consistently night after night,
but
in the chaos of a gig.
Yeah, it's a difficult issue, but you definitely want to make the record as like impactful as possible.
Oh yeah.
Completely.
What you would do is you'd have backing singers, and like in Bon Jovi's case, for years they would all just. I don't know whether it was to track, but it would certainly be backing singers taking care of the upper stratospheric stuff, and then
right.
maybe as Jake says, you would go for the hero moments on the key
great singer.
Yeah, well, he certainly was. I know he's had some issues himself in
Oh,
different
is he really?
aspects, but
you seem to know a lot about Bon Jovi.
You do, actually. Absolute bonge. You got a Bon Jovi fan club T-shirt on underneath that.
It's not very fashionable, but you are an amazing.
It's just that. It's just John.
Mate, I tell you, I'm a huge Bon Jovi fan. Up to these days, these days album in '96. Yeah, I'm an enormous Bon Jovi.
No, they're great. They're really good bands. Epic songs.
Yeah, and I have no embarrassment on that. I've made my peace with my love of old school Bon Jovi.
Yeah, I don't know why it's a guilty pleasure. Like the thing is, I think musicians don't have
the guiltiest of pleasures, but like
they don't have
guilty.
I
don't care.
Musos don't have guilty pleasures, like because
everyone's
like,
are coming back.
We know what there is. It's only people who don't understand. Like, if I say to a musician, like, I love ABBA, most musicians are like, yeah, I love ABBA too. Whereas if I say that, I remember I once said that to an ex, and she's like, "What? It's so cheesy." Well, no, you don't get it. You don't understand. It's so brilliant.
Yeah. There's levels to this. There's levels to this game.
Like when you're a musician and you have so cliche, isn't it? But when you genuinely have a diverse tastes in music, it's like you're accepting of. I trust you guys. Like if you guys say to me, "Check this out" or whatever, like it's. I trust that there's got to be something of value to it if you're listening to it. Even if I don't personally like it, I'm not. It's like I don't know. It's an interesting thing.
I push old Toto on so many people. Like the stuff outside of like Africa, like Angel Don't Cry and that kind of stuff. It's just absolute bangers, man. No shame. Absolutely no shame. I can love that shit.
Well, I think we need to keep it to a tight hour because Jake has to get off today. So I think we're gonna say cheers to.
I've got needs.
Thank you. All right.
He said I've got to get anyway.
All right, lad. And thank you to Guitar Techniques. Thanks to Guthrie, Dave, Phil, all the guys, and yeah, brought us all that stuff over the years. And thanks to you all for watching, listening. Check us out on YouTube if you're listening on the podcast feed. Sorry, there was some delay this week. My YouTube downloader broke and blah, blah, blah. But yeah, this audio should be up tomorrow if you want to catch it again. And yeah, we'll be back. We'll be back next week. Thanks so much for listening. Thanks, guys, for joining me.